Changes. It's further than you think, my dear. Yes, we're going to be looking at Labyrinth today. That's David Bowie, if you hadn't guessed. Not to be confused with Pan's Labyrinth, which is an entirely different film. Labyrinth stars David Bowie, yes, or David Bowie, depending on how you say it. Bowie. Anyway, remember, don't confuse these two films. So don't, for example, leave Pan's Labyrinth in your DVD player for your kids to watch. And yes, you know who I mean. It's not a good thing to do. Let's take a look at Labyrinth. I almost said Pan's Labyrinth. Labyrinth. From the makers of The Muppet Show, Fraggle Rock, The Dark Crystal, The Storyteller, it's Labyrinth. Jim Henson and his amazing workshop. So, what's the setup for Labyrinth? Well, it's pretty straightforward. There is a teenage girl who I think is about 14, and she has been asked by her parents to babysit her baby brother Toby, who is indeed an actual little baby. Now, for some reason, this really offends the teenage girl, who's called Sarah, and she goes into some sort of rage. She's really upset that she has to babysit. I'm not quite sure why, because she's got a nice big house to live in, and she's middle class. She's seemed to be doing okay. Her life seems pretty okay. But anyway, she's very upset about it. And when the parents leave for the evening, she's still upset, and she wishes that the Goblin King takes the baby away. Why the Goblin King? Well, she is very much into fantasy, so that's a yay, that's a plus point. She likes romances, medieval romances. She likes to pretend to be princesses, and she plays at that. And so she's really wrapped up in the fantasy genre. So obviously, if she's got a bit of rage, got a bit of anger in her, she wants her baby brother Toby to actually be taken away forever. Well, you've got to be careful what you wish for, because that's exactly what happens. The Goblin King does indeed take her baby brother away, and the Goblin King turns up at her house in the guise of David Bowie. Yes, full-on David Bowie. He's the Goblin King. He turns up and says, well, yes, you actually... I can't do the impression. I'm going to take the baby. You've said, you want the baby taken. That's a wish. You can't actually take that back. And Sarah, she's obviously a bit upset about that, and she wants the baby back. And he says, well, okay, what we'll do is the baby is actually at my castle, and there's a labyrinth. If you can make it all the way through the labyrinth, you can actually then get your baby brother back again. Well, Sarah, she hasn't got a choice. I think he gives a bit of a time limit. It says 8 hours. You have to collect your baby in 8 hours. Well, she tries to do that. So off she sets to the labyrinth. Well, labyrinth. Well, yes, David Bowie. That's my first problem with this film. It's David Bowie. A musical fantasy film, that's fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. In fact, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, that's a fine example of that. But it's David Bowie. Now, I'm not a massive fan of David Bowie, so I guess I'm going to be a little bit put off by that. Yes, he's a talented singer, obviously, a talented songwriter, but I personally don't like his music. So when you've got David Bowie as the Goblin King, he doesn't even look like a goblin. He's not green for a start. He's too beautiful to be a goblin, surely. How did he get voted in? Anyway, so if you don't like the music to this, then you're going to have a little bit of a problem, because it is a musical, as I say. And which brings me on to the actual music, the soundtrack. Again, that's my second point. It's a synthesized score, so it kind of feels too modern. Even though the film starts out in contemporary times, in 1986 it was released, it then, enters into a fantasy realm. So to have a modern day kind of synthesized sound to it kind of just breaks the fantasy element for me. Now, the other acting is brilliant. The creatures that Jim Henson has created are fantastic. You've got really cool creations, and they really do steal the show. They steal the whole film. In fact, they outshine David Bowie. Now, you know, that's one thing. If you like David Bowie, you're probably going to like this. My other problem with the film is that, well, the story just feels like a series of sketches that are kind of hung together. Yes, you've got the quest. It kind of reminds me of Alice in Wonderland, where you've got a lost girl who's looking for a way back. But with Alice in Wonderland, I actually really like Alice as a person. She's likeable. With Sarah, she's a stroppy teenager that's kind of all, you know, stroppy. And that's really difficult to kind of sympathise with her. But yes, she's got a heart of gold. Obviously, she's you know, putting her life on the line by going through this labyrinth to get her baby brother back. But for me, that's not enough to really want her to succeed. Now, the theme is growing up. It's about childhood into adulthood, and that's a really good fantasy theme. So that's fine, and they do explore that well. But as I say, it just feels like, has anyone seen Fraggle Rock? It kind of feels like an extended episode of Fraggle Rock. In fact, I'd probably prefer to watch an extended episode of Fraggle Rock, if I'm honest. Or it feels like it's an extended David Bowie music video. And as I say, I'm not a big fan, so I probably wouldn't really want to watch an extended version of that. But hey, if you're a fan of David Bowie, you're probably going to like this. Now, the other things is, as I say, the characters are good. They're the things that really make the film, the creatures and the other characters. The other thing is the script. The script is written by Terry Jones from Monty Python, so it's bound to be good. It's witty, it's clever, and there are some really other good sort of fancy concepts in there. There's a scene where I won't spoil it, but there's a scene where there's helping hands. That scene's really clever and imaginative. There's another scene where they're knocking at some doors. That's very good. And there's a scene in the swamp. That's good. There's also an optical illusion scene at the end of the film. And again, that's very well done. So in terms of production values, excellent, really good. But the overall impression, I just kind of, it did sag a little bit. The pacing was a little bit off. And there were some scenes that were a little bit of a filler. So overall, for me, it wasn't a massive success, but what I recommend is if you have kids who are maybe 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years old, I would watch the film with them because your enjoyment will actually be watching them enjoying the film. If you're of that age group, you probably will enjoy it because the songs are quite upbeat, they're quite fun, there's lots of silliness in it, which is good. So I would recommend watching the film with your kids. And then after that, I would watch Fraggle Rock and dance your cares away. Thank you for watching the Bottled Imp review of Labyrinth. I know it's controversial and it was the 80s, I understand that. Everything was big hair, big shoulder pads, big dancing, big music, big everything basically. I get that. Watch it anyway. Let me know what you think. Leave comments in our comment boxes on the YouTube channel. Remember, we've got a Twitter account. Follow us, like us, do all the social media thing. Brilliant. Until next time, fellow imps, stay tuned. So I would recommend watching the film with your kids. And then after that, I would watch Fraggle Rock and dance your cares away. Brilliant.
That was a load of rubbish.
Yeah, come on. Right.